Small SUVs are all the rage. The Indian market is leaning towards them. They are selling in huge numbers, and it's no wonder that Maruti have come up with another option in the sub 4 meter SUV category with the Fronx, which essentially is a Baleno based SUV. Now they already have the Brezza, which is priced, as you know, very optimistically. It's rather expensive, and there was a reason why they kept it so, because they wanted to place something between the Baleno and the Brezza. Now within the sub 4 meter category, as you would know, cars have become expensive, and if you're seeking value, I think the Renault Kiger and the Nissan Magnite offer tremendous value for what they're offering. The engines are good, they're fuel efficient, and the feature set is also very rich. And the Fronx, essentially, in my personal opinion, is going to take on those cars head on. Now, they're very good cars, mind you, but from a brand perspective, Nissan and Renault are not as strong as Maruti and Hyundai. And the Fronx is going to offer a sub 4 meter value for money SUV for people who are hunting for a great deal. Now let's start talking about what this car comprises of, and in terms of dimensions, let me be very clear, it's probably not as big as some of the other cars. Dimensionally, it's marginally small, but its wheelbase is the longest in the segment, and by about 20 mm. So that would release some more space inside. And in terms of styling also, I think Maruti have hit the nail on the head with the styling of this car. It looks very aggressive, very modern, and if you look at it from the front, it has this very beautiful grille, very SUV-ish high bonnet, and this bonnet also doesn't, like all the other cars in the segment, open from the lip here. The opening lip is here, which gives it a different character. So it has a very nice, broad, muscular SUV-ish character about it. These headlights are all LED on the top variants. On the lower variants, you will have them in halogen. The lower ones are low beam, and the top one is high beam. This car comes with a 360-degree camera, although this does not get front parking sensors. Overall, I like this design. These DRLs are also very nicely done, and the blinkers are integrated here. I won't talk much about the design because it generally looks very good. What do you think about the front of this car? Do let me know. Now coming towards the side is where we have a lot to talk about. First, these squared off wheel arches. The wheels fill the arches reasonably well, but there is some gap. The wheels by themselves are very nicely designed. 16-inch wheels, 195 section Goodyear Assurance tires. And on the lower variants, you will get alloys, but they'll be painted, not a two-tone machine cut unit like these. The ground clearance here is 190 mm. You have this silver applique here. But the most important thing about the design of this car is this coupe-like roof line, which swoops down and is the design element of a lot of premium coupe SUVs. So in that sense, it is quite stylish from the side, and I quite like the way it looks from the side. What do you think of the design of this car from the side? Do let me know. I really wish the mirrors were a little wider though. The visibility is not the best in class, although as you would see, this car comes with a 360-degree camera, and that unit is here, and the mirrors also have these blinkers. The handles are pretty ordinary, although on the belt line you have this chrome applique, and you also have this little quarter glass here to make up for the loss of greenhouse area because of the swooping roof line. You get these satin silver roof rails, but you won't get a sunroof here, so that's one big omission. And I really believe that a sunroof should have been provided at least as an option. You get a shark fin antenna, and at the rear also this car looks rather stunning. It gets a connecting LED light, and I also quite like this pattern on the LEDs as well. Overall, this car looks very nice, and this upswept 4 diffuser kind of a skid plate also gives it a very sporty look. I generally quite like this car, although it doesn't look very big. It has got very compact, very sporty dimensions. I would really want to know from you as to what you think about the styling of this car. Now, talking about the boot space, this car gets 308 liters of boot space, which is definitely not class leading. Some of the cars in the segment offer 350 liters of boot space, which is significantly more. And the loading area here is also pretty deep, so it's not very convenient. So the boot area here is not this car's highlight. In fact, the Baleno gets about 10 liters more than this car. You get a full-sized spare, although you won't get an alloy wheel, obviously. The illumination is here, and the seats are also 60-40 split. So if you want to make space, if you're not traveling with all 5 passengers, you can adjust the rear seats to load more stuff in. These vertical units here are reflectors. They are not illuminated. You get a rear wash and wipe and a high mount stop lamp as well. In terms of emissions, you don't get fog lamps neither up front nor at the rear, which I think is surprising because even the Baleno has fog lamps. Now, as you would know, this car comes with two engine options and the 1.2 litre naturally aspirated and the newly introduced 1 litre Boosterjet are the two engine options. The Boosterjet engine comes on the higher variants and the 1.2 litre naturally aspirated is on the lower variants. So you have the Sigma and the Delta variants with the lower spec engine and the Delta Plus and higher variants with the 1.0 litre Boosterjet engine, and that's where you'll get all the features. One of my colleagues is going to talk about all the differences between variants in a different video, but in this video I'm going to talk about the 1 litre Boosterjet Alpha variant. So obviously in this day and age you'll get a keyless entry, so you just have to press this button. You get folding ORVMs, open the door, and the interior would look very familiar to what you saw in the Baleno, although some panels have been changed and there are differences. Now, while in Baleno, the panels that you have here were in blue, here they are in this maroonish red color, and the design theme is generally the same. It's just that this applique that you see here in titanium is not there in the Baleno, so it's quite familiar. All of these are hard plastics, although this entire area where you'll rest your arm is soft to touch, and that's a good thing because for this segment to have even this much soft touch material is a very good thing. You have folding ORVMs, all the buttons for the windows, and the driver's side is one touch up and down. Space for 1 litre water bottle, some more space to spare, a dead pedal, all the familiar controls that we had on the Baleno, 360-degree camera, the HUD traction control off, surround view, automatic start stop, and the adjuster for the HUD. You get an engine start stop button, and the seat of course is height adjustable. Now the Venue is one car in the segment that offers an electric seat, but that's okay. Most of the other cars don't have that feature, but that's one feature that may have been included. The steering is tilt and telescopically adjustable, and this again is a unit that we have seen on the Baleno before. As you can see, the HUD is up now and it offers a lot of information including turn-by-turn navigation, so that's a very good thing. We have seen this, so I'm not going to go into much detail of this. Now the speedo is an analog unit. You have the tacho and the speedo with a color MID unit giving you all the information. This again is familiar, so I'm not going to talk much about it. Headlamps here are automatic, and here's the stock for that. This 9-inch screen that you see here is on the top of the line Alpha variant only. Lower variants will get a 7-inch screen, although wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is available on all the versions. Now the seat by itself is pretty comfortable. You have good thigh support, good bolstering. However, the foam density is not the best, but for long distances you won't feel uncomfortable. This is a reasonably comfortable seat, and the shoulder height is also pretty high. So apart from the foam density, the seat is generally very good. You have this little cavity here where you can put your wallet, so that's another useful utilitarian space that you have. Now the driver will also get this sliding armrest with a cavity good enough for a wallet, but not for a cell phone. If you want to put a cell phone, this won't lock. So this space could probably have been a little bigger. The great addition here is wireless charging, which was not there on the Baleno, and not just this a wireless charging space, but you can use this space to put your cell phone or wallet, and it's a good utility space that you have here, followed by two big cup holders. And I personally believe that by putting this handbrake to one of the sides, Maruti Suzuki could probably have created more utility space here, but it's not available. Although you can put something here, but this isn't exactly a utility space. Now in terms of the dashboard and the quality of the plastics, this is all hard plastics, but this is not bad quality rough plastic. It's neatly done, and so is the lower part of the dashboard as well. The glove box has decent amount of space, although this is not cooled. And if you look at this dashboard, as I mentioned, this is very familiar. The AC vents in the center and on the side are similar to the ones on the Baleno, although this applique here in titanium color is different, and this silver applique also is different as compared to the Baleno. This is slightly more similar to the Grand Vitara. This applique on the Baleno starts from here and goes to the sides, while here you have this piano black, and these blocks go to the lower side of the dashboard. As I mentioned, you don't have a sunroof here, although you have this vanity mirror with illumination for both driver and passenger, and the IRVM also is auto dimming. You have these two lights, and this 9-inch touchscreen is something that we have seen before. On the higher variants, you will get Archimed's surround sense, which is reasonably good. It sounds really well, and you have a lot of settings. It comes with 4 speakers and 2 tweeters on the top of the line variant, and you have a lot of options to choose from. So on the surround sense, you have the natural, acoustic and dynamic modes to choose from, and you also have an equalizer where you have the flat rock, classic, jazz, hip hop and pop presets to choose from. Now this also comes with connected car tech, and for the 80 variant you can in fact change the AC temperature. Also, it comes with 40 plus connected car features. So all of that is covered. We have covered that in depth on our earlier videos as well, and this is a similar unit, so we don't need to talk about all the features on this. Now let's have a look at the reverse camera as well. And as I mentioned before, this is one of the nicer cameras, and you have the rear cross traffic alert as well as various different views for the surround camera as well. You also get these guidelines, and generally this camera has to be one of the nicest in this segment and is one of the highlights of the Fronx. Now all the controls for the AC are lined up here. You can change the temperature from here, and the blower settings are here. This is an automatic AC, although this is not a 2-zone unit. You have a 12-volt power socket here and a fast charging unit here. As I mentioned, you can connect your Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wirelessly, so that is a fantastic feature this car has. Now in terms of safety, this car shares its platform with the Baleno, and the chassis is almost identical. They have worked on the suspension system and the steering and the outside body panels. The overall weight increase here is 35 kgs, which has primarily gone into the body panels, so the chassis is more or less the same. So in terms of safety, this car should be similar to the Baleno. Its safety ratings are not out yet, so I cannot conclusively tell you how safe this is, but it does come with 6 airbags on the top of the line variant. It also comes with ESP and hill hold assist, ABS with brake assist. So all of those features are there, and it's reasonably well equipped, and I really think that it should do fairly well in NCAP safety ratings whenever the crash test happens. Now overall, it's a very neatly laid out setup up front, and this screen, as I mentioned before, also is one of the nicest out there. So it's a very well equipped car, and except for the lack of a sunroof, I cannot really fault it for lacking any equipment. Now let's get to the back seat, because with that swooping roof line, I am pretty sure that you're interested in knowing how good the comfort and space at the back seat is. Let's go and check it out. Now the seat height both up front and at the rear is ideal, and it's good for those who are too short as well. And the materials on the door are the same as up front. Also the armrest and this area is soft to touch. You have a 1-liter water bottle here, and as you'd enter, you'll have to mind your head. There is no dearth of knee room. Leg room is good too. Thigh support is pretty good, but the headroom here, as you can see, for my height is just about adequate. And you'll be surprised to note that despite this car having a height which is more than the Baleno, it's also been jacked up because the ground clearance is high, and the roof height here at this point is actually 5 to 7 mm less than the Baleno. So if you're anything more than 5 feet 10, your head is going to be brushing with the roof, and the headroom here is one of the things which is not great about it. Now for most people in India it should be fine, but this is not the most spacious of headrooms. Also the seat angle could probably have been a little bit more reclined. Also the venue comes with a reclining rear seat, which is a feature not available here. So the thigh support is decent and the seats are pretty good. I also quite like the color scheme inside. This ribbed texture on the seats both up front and at the rear, this two-tone kind of a treatment. All of this lends it a very nice ambience, but this is not one of the most airy and spacious places to be. And this quarter glass here doesn't really help much, because it does really not come across as a very airy, spacious space. You do get these 3 adjustable headrests and proper 3-point seat belts for all 3 passengers, which is a great thing. You also get a light for the rear passengers, this handle and a coat hook. You get a magazine holder on the front passenger's seat back. You don't get it here. You get a rear AC vent. You get some space here and 2 USB sockets, one of which is a normal USB socket and the other one is a Type-C. Isofix child seat mounts are also present, and I would say that this seat is good to carry 2 who are up to 5 feet 10 inch in comfort. If you're taller than that, your head is not going to be very happy, and if you're going to be seating a third person here, this hump is going to make it very uncomfortable if you're going to be traveling for anything more than a short distance. Alright then, so we are behind the wheel of the all-new 1-liter Boosterjet engine, which we first saw on the Baleno RS, and it has made a comeback, and I'm pretty sure that how this car drives, how the engine behaves, the performance, the ride, the handling is something that you are interested in, and I have a lot to share. Typically these days you don't have too much information to gather because cars generally behave in a very predictable kind of a manner, but this car has its own character. And let's talk about the engine first. So this is a 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo engine. As you know, power is 100 PS and the torque is 147.6 Newton meters, which is produced between 2000 and 4500 RPM. The peak power comes at 5500 rpm. So those are the numbers. In terms of fuel efficiency, Maruti is claiming 20 kmpl for the 80, which is the 6-speed 80, and for the 5-speed manual, which is this one, it's 21.5 kmpl. Let me get done with the real world fuel efficiency first, and within the city you will get about 14-15 kmpl on this car, and on the highway, if you're driving cautiously, carefully, you will get about 20 kmpl. So the fuel efficiency on this car, with the turbo engines, among the turbo engines, you have the highest fuel efficiency. Other cars have about 17, 18, etc. But this car is giving you 21.5, which is very good. But the power numbers are not the highest. On the Venue, you get higher power and torque. Similarly, on the Nissan Magnite and Kiger also, the torque is higher. However, the acceleration time on this car is pretty good, and according to my test, this car will be able to do its 0 to 100 in 11.5 seconds flat. Maruti is claiming that the 80 is quicker than the manual. I doubt that, but 11.5 seems to be true, which is pretty quick, and for a car which is not an out-and-out sporty car, I think that's a good number. So all of those things sound pretty good, and generally, if you are not someone who wants to hustle his car, this car is pretty good. But if you are one, if you want to be driving this car enthusiastically, then it might just disappoint you. And the reason is that the steering is very light and vague, and the car's suspension has been jacked up, and all of that doesn't bode well for its on-road handling characteristics. Although it's a reasonably stable car, I wouldn't really want to drive it too fast, especially around corners. There is a sense of waviness in this car. It isn't as planted as some of the other cars in the segment, and while the ride quality is fantastic, it glides over bad surfaces, the ground clearance is sufficient, it really is very comfortable. It isn't a car that you really want to be hustling around. The steering, as I mentioned, lacks feedback. It's light, it feels very artificial, and especially if you're going around tight turns, the car seems to be floating around a little bit. I'm not saying that it's unstable. What I'm saying is that it doesn't inspire you to go faster, and if you are an enthusiast, if you really want to be driving your car fast, this car is not going to make you feel very happy. So I want to be very clear about that this car is not an enthusiast's car. This car is a very practical car. It's comfortable. The engine works well for the most part, but if you want this car to handle really well, that is one thing that it doesn't know. With that out of the way, let me also talk about the engine's other characteristics. So in terms of engine speeds, in the first gear you will get to about 50 kilometers per hour, in the second you'll get to 80 kilometers per hour, and in the third gear you'll reach 130 kilometers per hour. In terms of its behavior, it's at about 1000 rpm, where if you are on a flat surface, the car has some momentum, but there is a perceptible amount of lag. There is a bit of lag, and it's at 1600 rpm where the engine spools up, where you have some torque coming in, and it's only after 2500 rpm where you have that turbo rush, where you have a sense of strong acceleration. So for strong overtaking acceleration, you'll need to be at about 2500 rpm if you are going to be wanting to overtake the other cars at a swift pace. Now, since this is a turbo, you would also be a little concerned about its tractability, and while it's not as tractable as some of the NA engines, it is reasonably tractable. And in the fifth gear, I found it comfortable above 40 kilometers per hour. The fourth gear, this was comfortable about 30 kilometers per hour, and in the third gear, you can drive it about 20 kilometers per hour. 1000 to 1600 rpm is a range where you need to be a little bit careful. If you need instant acceleration, it won't happen. So you'll generally need to keep it above 1500 rpm for it to respond to your throttle inputs. The gear shifts also here are not the smoothest that I've come across of late. The clutch is light, but there is definitely a certain sense of notchiness in the gears. It's not as buttery smooth as the one on the Venue. So the gearbox could have done with a little bit more fluidity. Also, I wouldn't have minded having a sixth gear here, so that's not there. On the 1.2 liter naturally aspirated, you have a 5 manual like this one and a 5 AMT. On this, you'll get a 5 manual and a 6-speed 80. So a 6th gear also would have been nice. Now, we have all known the 1.2 liter naturally aspirated engine to be one of the most supremely refined engines. This one is refined too. I'm not saying that this is not refined, but it's not as refined, and the fact that this is a 3-cylinder engine is evident once you take it about 2000-2500 rpm. So there is a very mild noise that you get from the engine. but there is also a sense of strong acceleration. The moment the torque kicks in, you do feel that this is definitely swifter than the naturally aspirated engine. Although whether I would recommend you to go for this one over the naturally aspirated one only for performance, I don't think so. I think the naturally aspirated version is also reasonably powerful, and that one also will do just about well for the most part. Also, that engine offers you better fuel efficiency. That's in excess of 23 kilometers per liter, and in the real world that engine will definitely give you about 15 to 20% better efficiency than this one. However, if you want all the bells and whistles, all the features, you'll have to necessarily go with the Boosterjet engine, as the 1.2 is available only with the lower variants. All in all, I think this engine is capable. Fuel efficiency is its highlight. It's not the most powerful engines. There is a bit of turbo lag, but it's definitely not something that is going to quench the enthusiast in it. It's a good car for all practical purposes. At highway speeds, it's pretty good. If you talk about cruising speeds, at 80 in fifth gear, it's at about 2000 RPM, and at 100, it's at about 2500 RPM. However, as I mentioned before, if you want to be traveling really fast and if you want to have fun around corners, then this is not the ideal car. Overall, very, very comfortable. The suspension is its highlight. It takes in its stride. Bad surfaces really, really well, very comfortable. But again, as I mentioned, the Baleno also would handle a little better than this. Now, in terms of color, this car is available in 6 monotone colors: Nexa Blue, Arctic White, Earthen Brown, Opulent Red, Splendid Silver and Grandeur Grey, and 3 two-tone colors as well: Earthen Brown with Bluish Black, Opulent Red with Bluish Black and Splendid Silver with Bluish Black. All in all, the Fronx is a well-equipped, good-looking car, but the only problem that I see with this machine is the lack of headroom at the rear seat. Also, Maruti should have given a sunroof as an option at least. Now, in terms of pricing, while Maruti have not announced it, I really think that it's going to sit slam bang between where the Baleno is and where the Brezza is. And from that perspective, I think the price of this car will start at about 7 lakh rupees and go all the way till 11.5 lakh rupees for the top of the line variant. And I'm saying that because if you look at the Magnite and Kiger, the prices for those cars range from 6 lakh rupees to 11 lakh rupees. People, I'm pretty sure, would be ready to pay a bit of a premium for the Maruti Suzuki brand. So Maruti can take the liberty of pricing this a little bit more optimistically. Also, if you look at the price of the Baleno, it starts at 6.6 lakh rupees and goes till 10 lakh rupees. If you add some premium over that car, the simple translation is a price range of 7 lakh rupees to 11.5 lakh rupees in my humble opinion. And at that price, I really believe Maruti Suzuki will be answering a big question that's staring a lot of people in their face. There is no product in that price bracket which qualifies as a sub 4 meter SUV from Maruti Suzuki or Hyundai at this point in time, and this car is definitely going to fly off the shelves at that price point. I really hope that I was able to answer all your basic questions about this car. Still, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer them. If you liked the video, do hit the like button, subscribe to Motoroids, and until next time, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free and drive safe.